Hi, and welcome to Conversations with J.R. Floyd. And if you're joining me for the first time, I am saying thank you for joining me. Tonight's conversation will center around Relationship 101, getting back to basics, starting from the beginning. The reason why I'd like to talk to you tonight about Relationships 101 and getting back to beginning is this. Most people that I hear around me talking about their relationships, they feel like they are stuck in relationships that is loveless, lack romance. Um, they just don't understand how they got to where they are. And I think some of the problem is that they have gotten so wrapped up into raising the children and getting a career, acquiring an education, paying the bills, getting more, getting more, getting more. After a while, what happens is people forget about each other. They forget about the relationship. They forget about the partnership, and it becomes more like a living arrangement, and it becomes more like two ships passing in the night. Where you're just updating each other on what's going on with the kids, what's going on with the house, what's going on with the bills. I'm tired. I'll get to it tomorrow, and you forget about the two adults and the partnership. And it began after a while. What happens, or what I see happening around me, is that people build up resentment, they build up anger. There might be have been some infidelity, or may not have been infidelity. And people feel like their needs have not been met. Partners are feeling like they have been neglected, by their significant others. So that's why I am suggesting to you, to your partner, sit down and go back to the beginning. Go back to the beginning. Take a stroll down memory lane and go back to the beginning. Go back to where it all began from the beginning. I'm talking about that first initial encounter, that first hookup, those first feelings of attraction. I am talking about when when you got over that first honeymoon period, and all the dust settled, you got over all the illusion, and the relationship became real. You realize that the relationship is real, and you consented and making it a long-term relationship, whether it's a partnership, whether it's common law, whether it's shakina, whether it's a legal marriage, regardless to what the situation is that you found yourself in, you're in it. And you need to remember down memory lane, and you need to remember how you got there and what led you there, the feelings that you had, the promises that you probably made to one another, you know, the emotional connection. Sometimes what happens in these relationships, the emotional disconnect, the gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and no one's paying attention to that they're drifting apart. Or you might have one partner who is paying attention and the other partner isn't paying attention, and that's where the anger and that's where the resentment builds up at. You know, I think it's very important. Now, let me clarify something. If you have not been following my YouTube channel, Conversations with JR, I make it very plain. I am not a relationship expert. I am not a psychologist. I am an English teacher. I decided to create my YouTube channel, Conversations with JR, and focus on relationship topics is because of this. I hear a lot of people that are in relationships partnerships, talking to everyone else, but they're not talking to their partner. They're talking to their mothers, their fathers, their sisters, their brothers, their girlfriends, their male friends, their pastors, their priests. They'll talk to a stranger if a stranger listens. But the only person that they are not talking to is they are not talking to each other. So it was my hope to create this YouTube channel, Conversations with JR, in hopes to get people talking to each other. Get your significant other and sit down and watch some of my videos. I just talk about plain common sense, everyday relationship issues that I hear people talking about, that I hear want solved, that I hear people wanting. I see a lot of people that are broken. I see a lot of people that are in pain. I see a lot of people that are hurting. I see a lot of people who are they're in relationships, and I tell you, they just look so destitute. You know, they just, and some of them want to fix the problem. Not a lot of people want to run to a divorce. Not a lot of people want to run away from their relationships. I think it's just my personal opinion. I think that if people sat down and started talking to one another. And I mean communicating in a fair level, not screaming, not shouting, not cursing, not walking out, but communicating and a fair level where you are openly listening to what your partner has to say. This should not be a bashing session. This should not be pointing the finger session and pointing blame session. This should be a night or a day or an evening, a weekend. Get away from the kids, get away from the house, and rent a hotel room, go to Atlantic City, go to a casino, go to a resort, go to the Poconos, go someplace and just talk. And the conversation that you should have with one another should start something like this. Remember when we first met? Remember our first date? Remember our first kiss? Remember our first dance? Remember when? Remember when? Remember our wedding day? Remember when we had our first child? Remember this, remember that. It should start like that. It should start going back to the beginning, going back to the beginning. Before all the anger and the fighting and the bitterness and the distance and the resentment and the blaming. And I'm hoping that infidelity is not a part of this, but really just going back to the beginning. And then as you go back to the beginning, as you keep reminiscing and reminiscing, not reminiscing about, oh, what went wrong, because you will get there. You will get there. This reminiscing and this going back to the beginning, it is a part of trying to find out what happened, how it happened, not who did it, and we got this way because it takes two people. It takes two people in a relationship to not pay attention. I know that one party may be doing more than the other or less than the other, but it still takes two people. If you want to stay in the relationship, and if you want to salvage the relationship, if you really go back to the beginning and you reminisce and you have that romantic weekend away, and you really realize that, yo, this is what we did. This is what we did. This is what we could have done better. This is what we did not do. Notice that I'm using the word we. It's very difficult to say, this is what you didn't do, this is what You didn't keep your promise. This is where you're lacking. You. And then it becomes the blame game. And then you start the fighting. And then that beautiful weekend that you took off to get away from everybody, um, I suggest, 1 minute, I suggest in my book, The Waiting Game, in my book, The Waiting Game, okay, it's available on Amazon. My book, The Waiting Game. What I suggest is that people stop talking to outside people about their personal relationships. I suggest that. Now, you may have that, females may have that one girlfriend, men may have that one male friend, give it that we all have it. If that is necessary, Chris, fine, but they need to be the voice of reason. They need to be impartial, and they need to be the voice of reason. Ladies, you do not need to go around females, your sister friends, that is going to say, girl, you need to leave that man alone. Girl, it's been long enough. Girl, ain't you tired of him doing this? And ain't you tired of him doing that? He's probably just doing that, going out there cheating. No, you need to have friends that will sit down and listen to you if that's what you need to do, and talk to you and have a conversation and give you sound advisement, not advice, sound advisement. And the same thing with males. We should not, when people come to us and they're talking to us about their intimate relationships and the problems that they're having in their intimate relationships, we should not, the person who's on the receiving end of that, we should not be putting anything, first of all, don't take sides. Second of all, we should not be putting anything negative in their heads. We should not. But what should happen is that we should try to help them mend their relationship, mend their differences. We live in a society right now that I feel that they support dysfunctional relationships. People are supporting dysfunctional relationship. You go to the churches, and the first thing that people in the church will tell you is pray about and read the scripture. Marriage counseling can help. Relationship counseling can help, but both parties have to be open to the counseling. Both parties have to be open to wanting this to work. You can't just say it is what it is. Well, you can say it is what it is, but in the long run, do you really want it to work out? Because guess what? Running from this relationship and it didn't work out, and then running into the next relationship, and the same thing keeps happening over and over, and the same cycle keeps happening over and over, and you do not understand how to solve these problems, and how to not get to the point where you got to go back to the beginning and go back to basics to find out what we did not do, or what we should have been doing, or what we should have been paying attention to. So, for my first evening going live on YouTube, I'm really enjoying this. I'm really enjoying this. I am enjoying this. So, from here on out, what I think I will do is that I will make this official. I will make Thursday nights, say 9 p.m., my nights that I go live on YouTube. And I want you to spread the word. Go back and watch some of my videos from the beginning. It's conversations with J.R. Floyd. But in the meantime, to get to know more about who J.R. Floyd is, okay, this is my book. It's called The Waiting Game. It's my very, very first book. And The Waiting Game covers relationship myths. This is my personal story, personal experience about relationship myths, and how relationship myths sometimes can be very damaging when you're going through relationships and you've been raised with all these old wives' tales and these myths that don't even work. So until I see you again, thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for listening. I would like to hear from you. So don't forget, go to Conversations with JR on YouTube. And I'm also on my Facebook page. My Facebook page is called Drag the Pen. It's one word, just drag the pen at Facebook. Thank you. And I hope that you're having a conversation with your spouse tonight. And I hope that it's a beautiful conversation that is going to lead to some healing.